Well, if you're with us, good evening and welcome to the WEBSTER report on this, the 19th of January 2025. The tech demons are really after us tonight. It's me and Alex have got a bit of a lag going on, so I'm not sure how long we'll do tonight. We'll see how we can go. We're trying it with cameras for now. If it does start glitching, we'll go off. If everybody can hear me, can you just give us a thumbs up in the chat room? Because I've no clue this end. Just gives me helpful things like if you plug your internet in rather than go Wi-Fi, it'll be much better. You know. Alex, you might as well come straight in, lad.
Right, pal. How you doing?
All right. What's good? Oh, well, I was doing all right. I was doing all right. I come on here and then I just got all bloody stressed because of everything. I don't know. You know, it wasn't worth doing a monologue because I couldn't even tell whether I'm being heard or whether I'm just frozen in time again. There's a fair bit going, you know, there's obviously everything going on anyway, but, you know, we've got a big day coming up tomorrow. There could be a lot of things happening from tomorrow. You know, we're going to get some real meat coming now in the next few weeks. You know, we've heard Trump talking about Canada. We've heard him talking about the Panama Canal, the Gulf of Mexico. Gulf of Mexico is going to become the Gulf of America. Canada should be a 51st state because of the dependency that he claims they've got on the US. Trudeau's already stepped down. So we're seeing a lot of changes all over the world. So what's your take on that, my friend?
Well, my take on that is what a shame that we live in the UK, most of us. Because, you know, no matter what you make of Trump, at least he's putting the leftists to the sword. And we've got Keir Starmer going to Ukraine, pledging 100 years of support, which, you know, that's not even a treaty. I mean, how can you guarantee and saying, you know, Rachel Reeves is going to stay for the foreseeable future? He's not even thinking of cabinet reshuffle. And, you know, all the things that he's doing, incredible. Donald Tusk in Poland, he's trying to get us back into Europe and reverse Brexit because obviously he's not a Democrat. He's just doing what he wants and they're re-engineering everything. So my concern, I suppose, in a way, it's exciting to see that there's some pushback in general, quite apart from the spiritual part of it, on the political level. This rebalancing against the insanity has been good. But of course, we're not getting any respite in this country because, you know, can we even mention his name without fear of getting arrested? So he's stitching everything up and bringing a load of legislation in quickly. Looks like he's deliberately crashing the economy through Reeves. They're doing everything that's the opposite of what keep an economy afloat. They're giving all their money away. Obviously, they tried to give the Chagos Islands back, but Trump's intervened. So he is on a crash course. Talk about executive orders that they need in the US. Starmer's just fast-tracking a load of stuff through that's taken us in just completely the wrong direction, undoing all the work of democracy since 2016. And obviously, from a British perspective, it's very concerning.
Yeah, I mean, it was quite amazing that it's taken Elon Musk to say, what? There's grooming gangs and you don't want to investigate them. What's all that about? You know, what is going on with this country? Are we really let go of the steering wheel completely now, Alex? Because, like you just said, you've rattled all those things off what Starmer's doing. But if you remove Starmer, it's not going to stop what's going on. It's the manifesto. So the British public, with gas, water and electric, council tax and mortgages all going up from the end of this month, they're trying to get blood out of stones here. And it's you still look round and there's, you know, apart from the people who've been possibly switched on for the last 10 years, I mean, we've had quite a major event down in Maidstone where there's a house been taken in a sting in the morning like that, just been turned up, arrested, fence put up all around the house, security, cameras, police cordoned off the street, wouldn't even let the general public go past. So they're trying to make an example. This is, this isn't something that they just woke up and did. This has been planned for months. But
yeah,
is that to try and trigger a response from people who have been battling all this, or what? It's, I mean, for me, the way I know how these dirty gets work, I know that if they've moved that quick to get that property, they don't want to be sat on it again, Alex. They're going to try and get that in a fire sale within a week. Potentially, they've already got buyers for it. I know that's what happened with my property. These are dirty gets, and they don't care anymore. They're just going for it. But again, what we're seeing playing out here is the absolute tyranny that is coming from a world order. I know we keep getting told that there's a savior coming, but we were told this in the Bible, that there's a savior coming out of the people. He's going to rise up and he's going to announce peace and safety. We're seeing this now trigger all around the world. Why has Trump got all this influence? We're talking about these 10 nations that haven't got kingdoms yet, these 10 leaders. You haven't got kingdoms just yet. It's not like this isn't just the world anymore. You are really letting yourself and your children down if you're not switched on enough to think, is there a prediction about all this? Is anything reliable? We discuss every week what's in that book, right? And it tells us that this is where we're at. And, when I look back in history, how many times have we seen people who've got the end is nigh and this is happening, and that. In 53 years, I've never seen anything this close to what I've seen written in that Bible. And if Trump is having all this trigger, what he's doing, I mean, I've heard rumblings now that, he's possibly, because he's already had a threat to his life, there's threat that something might happen at the inauguration tomorrow. Who knows? Is this going to be the one that was and comes back? Who knows? We just don't know. All I can say is that, hold on, because we're going on a ride from tomorrow. Once he gets it, things have got to move quickly.
Yeah, I think so. As I think I've already mentioned, without going into the detail, if you look at the signs in the heavens, well, what did Jesus mean by that? I mean, you can imagine it's just comets and celestial fireworks. Everyone's going, hey, look at that. Oh, it's scary. As if it's some disaster movie. But I tend to favour the interpretation like with the Magi and the star. A lot of people think it's just a light that travelled across the sky. It's like, that's the literal language that's used, as if they followed a star. You can imagine them looking up and the star's just moving and they're going in the same direction. That's crude. They've used astrological mapping. They've looked for confluence from heaven portents. That's what it actually means. And if you look at it on that level, there's a lot of visual stuff happening this month, and then a lot of stuff, coming up between now and the end of March. It's all aligned, and it's aligned with the celestial movements going back to 9/11 and before, but particularly 9/11. So it's been a pretty consistent choreography for the last 20 odd years, and for what I can see, it's all coming together pretty much according to the script. So we're going to be living in a radically different space sometime up by July 2026. We're either not going to be here anymore in this form, or there's going to have been such a shift that everything's totally unrecognizable. But it's going to be radical over the next 18 months.
Something's got. I mean, I don't know how that plays out over here, because I know that Farage is the poster boy for what they look to want to make some changes here. He comes along with Trump and Musk, so they're obviously attacking Starmer to get him onto GB News and get him in the spotlight. And it's all fine. I mean, all this bad stuff's got to come for the good anyway, because that's how God works. But the problem that we've got is people who are buying in to these men that are going to save something. It's just, I can't rely on them. Everything that I've ever been taught are lies. You know, I genuinely don't get how people don't feel as, want for a better word, triggered like I do over being taught to pay me bills when I shouldn't do that, because it makes my finances worse off, and it also makes the country's finances worse off. But that means they can launder money, and then when they've spent everything, they just put everything up, and we just go, let's do it, let's carry on. You know, where's the morality with people? We've lost all our moral compass. Yeah, yes, of course, Johnny. Of course, you can be a cat. No, you can't be a cat, Johnny. You're not a cat. You know, where do we start drawing these lines? Because, or are the lines too late? Do we just have to watch this play out, Alex? Because I don't know what to say to people. Everybody knows there's something wrong. Everybody wants somebody to do something. But, you know, you are somebody. So do something. Don't just wait. Yeah. You can't just wait. There must be something you can do. You can talk to people. You can set up groups. You know, you go and get called names by people like all of us lot have done. You know, you've got people there saying about these jibby jabs. Why didn't people warn us? But we don't. You know, you want to send a picture back of tin foil, and now we see people dropping dead suddenly like that's being normalised. I would say if it needs to be normalised, it's not normal.
Yeah.
I don't know where to start with it tonight. We're going over all the same stuff. It's just going to get worse. I've seen an interview this week where they've gone round one town near the coast, and they were interviewing like teenage lads, and they were saying it's the illegal immigrants. It's the illegal. Why don't they stop this? We're giving them all that money, and we've got our own here on the street. The fact is that we've got our own on the street. Why have we got our own on the street? And then giving all this money to people who come illegally. And then, you know, in America now, in California, they were going to swear illegal aliens in to be police officers. An illegal alien who's not registered anywhere, make him a police officer. Everything's turned upside down, mate. No wonder it's on bloody fire.
Yeah, well, in terms of the prospects of changing it, if you look at sales and marketing, you often get talk of key opinion leaders, and they can really significantly influence markets. You sometimes get it with celebrities. So no matter what you think about J.K. Rowling, if she says some stuff now, because of her status of having written the Harry Potter series, she says something, it'll carry a bit more weight. And so it depends, you know, like if Bono came out, so Mel Gibson, you know, some celebrity, and they get a bit of a reputation, they're considered to be a decent sort or whatever, then they can influence and they can leverage. And if enough people do that, then there's a chance. And unfortunately, this celebrity culture, which has had a grip on people's minds for a long time. If you look at somebody like Robin Williams, who is a really dearly loved character, who had a lot of struggle, if somebody like him speaks up because he's loved as well, like, you know, some people just it's adulation because of the look that they've got or the image that's been cultivated. But there's some who are really loved by people, and Robin Williams would have been one of those people. So if somebody like that starts to speak up, and then somebody else who's also respected speaks up, you realize that over time, if that sort of starts to cross over into political spectrums, so, you know, Nigel Farage, let's just say in the news coverage, it becomes a bit broader, and you don't just have traditional journalists with a stitch-up job on a politician asking scripted questions, but you get independent podcasts with different sorts of people, and then Jordan Peterson interviewing Tommy Robinson, no matter what you think of Tommy Robinson, and then somebody else being interviewed, and then suddenly, you know, Elon Musk can wade in, and you can get some political leverage against the likes of Keir Starmer over time and build the pressure. But you'll need something like that, because if you don't have some key opinion leader, somebody who's popular, who's a celebrity, but who's not corrupted, then it's too much to ask for individuals on the ground to leverage anything. So you are talking really now. We're at the 11th hour. It's a divine intervention, and the whole thing's coming down. Or somehow, this weight of celebrity movements from decent people who have respect from the public, if they sound, there might be some pushback. But even then, it's just pushback, and you get Keir Starmer out here, and you get Farage in. Similar to Trump, talks a good game. The principles are a lot better than the insanity we had before. But they're all, market capitalists in the most extreme sense. So exploitation and corporate privilege and so on is never going to be far away. So the little guy is not going to be factored very significantly. So best case scenario is that there's a bit of a movement kicks in, a bit of pushback, get Farage in this country, and maybe it's better. But the problem is, as we know, once a coalition of the good can be more dangerous than a coalition of the bad, because with a coalition of the bad, they're bad. The coalition of the insane, we saw with the leftists, with their insane policies, most people who are not completely cabbaged can see that that's insane. So your enemy is. It's a false doctrine propagated by morons. But with people like, charging on a white charger, speaking the right game with good principles, it's much harder to see them as the enemy. And that's why we have to be a lot more cautious about when it looks cosmetically like things are improving massively. In some senses, when it's looking bad, it's hard for it to get much worse. So you kind of know that improvement is necessary. If it all looks good, oh, it's brilliant, and like the Redeemer, the Savior concept. Obviously, we watched the thing about the Noahide laws, and that in some quarters now, the Sanhedrin, which was, I think, re-established in about 2005 as a kind of a governing body within Judaism, they have declared Donald Trump one of their two messiahs from the lineage of David, and then there's going to be another messiah as well. So he's been put on coinage, and obviously all the Israeli lobbyists are behind it all. You can't say anything about that in any way, otherwise you're anti-Semitic. So it's a bit of a stitch-up job going on at that level.
Well, you were talking about the celebrity stuff. It's celebrity after celebrity now that is jumping on the bandwagon with Elon Musk jumping on. But this is the false Christianity. This is a false Christianity, because Donald Trump will claim he's Christian, yet he stood next to Kenneth Copeland, who couldn't be less Christian. So we start to define what is this Christian thing, because if Roman Catholicism, you're classed as a Christian, then I'm not a Christian. So I have to say that if you're following what it says in the Bible, and particularly what Jesus says, then you would say, well, I'm a Christian because I follow that. But these don't follow it. You've got Trump bowing at the Wailing Wall. Now, these Jews that like him, I don't think they're Messianic Jews. And, Taylor will rightly point out that Israel are the ones who are going to get betrayed, but they're left till last. Well, we know that because it's written down in this book. But when you've got all this false Christianity with lukewarm churches that don't preach the true Bible, I mean, we are so lost in translations. I had, because of the tech issues, I couldn't show a couple of the slides that I was going to show. But it's something so simple as what we were talking about this week, Alex, where Isaiah 14:12 says, "Oh, Lucifer, son of the morning," right? Let's stop there. Let's open our lexicon and look at what that says. Lucifer, son of the morning, Hillel ben Shakar. So it's shining one, son of Shakar, which is dawn. What is son of the dawn? Dawn was Shakar. Shakar was a Canaanite god. So Lucifer, particularly the son of Shakar. So he's the son of the fallen one. So he's not Satan. Now, if that everybody knows that Lucifer and Satan are the same one, if that's not true, what else in that Bible do you think is true? That not is it that you'll be woofed out of here, leaving your pants come falling down? You know, where's Dave gone? He was here a minute ago. There's his pants. You know, that's not in the Bible either. So we've got to, for me, Alex, we've got to grow up, be humble. Where have you got your information from? These people that have been feeding you crap all these years, you know, be humble. I'm 53 years old and I can hold my hands up and say, hey, I've built my life on quicksand because of the stuff I've been taught. I was struggling to pay bills because of what I've been taught, because I shouldn't have been paying those bills. If everybody knew that you should have been setting those bills off, what would have the scenario been, Alex? There would have been no debt. There would have been more revenue for the taxpayer, for the government to collect, to invest back into the infrastructure. So we wouldn't have trains that are cancelled because there's a leaf on the line or anything like that. We would have a proper infrastructure instead of this antiquated pile of crap that we get blamed for. You know, it's time for the taxpayer to stop taking the blame and stop doing all the work. All they've got to do is say no. But that's where it gets scary. Well, it's one of those then. We just wait. Bring in Martin Niemöller. Where's Martin? Just wait for, like Martin Niemöller, when there's nobody left, and then they come for you. The answer is to start talking about this stuff. Start speaking to your neighbours, as we've said before, organising groups to come and talk about it, because Labour are shutting pubs now. They're trying to make it, they're trying to ban drinking. This is getting ridiculous. In California, in LA, where all those homes, we've seen the destruction. We've seen everything burnt, right? All the fire insurance policies were cancelled, Alex. Do you know the banks are still saying that those property owners have got to pay the mortgages for no property? How does that work? That's just beyond, that's beyond stupid. So when that comes here, will people just, oh, well, no property, we've still got to pay it? Well, nothing. Well, we'll just take the land. Well, look at all that property. Look at all that spare land now in LA. And they just so happen to want to have a smart city for the Olympics by 2028. Just a coincidence there.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard really to add to it, isn't it, mate? We've already said that there's three possible scenarios. The people rise up, you get some sort of celebrity pushback, or people who've got some sort of status in the eyes of the people who are not politicians, or divine intervention. And obviously then you get those people who believe it's an alien thing, and you know, the Galactic Federation are going to send their space troops in. So it's either external intervention for those who are a bit more sci-fi. You know, there's this middle ground of celebrities with influence who are not politicians but have wealth and backing, or it's us all rebelling. I just don't see human beings, particularly in the West, doing that. I mean, look at the French. They rebelled and they've got no Tories for it. It's part of their national identity. And yeah, they just get beaten up and they're loud and vocal, but you know, Macron still pushed through. And when, you know, Marine Le Pen was about to win legitimately, all the other parties just pulled together to kill the democratic process and abuse it to keep her out. So they've all got a vested interest in the institutional structures to really excluding the possibility of meaningful change through political channels. So they are forcing the issue, really, that individuals, you know, would either have to take up arms, which was all to do with the Second Amendment in America, and we don't have that written constitution the same way, or they'll just you know, there'll be revolutions like there were in France in particular, as we know, in Europe, closest one to us. So yeah, those seem to be the options. Bloodshed, or some sort of middleware intervention by some people with clout. Some people talk about white hats. Obviously, we know Taylor's talked about white hats in various guises. Q doesn't seem to be relevant anymore now that Trump's in power. So maybe it's on an international level, Trump and Elon and co can start to put Starmer under pressure. But, you know, again, that's optics. Superficially, it might look better. And then everyone go, oh, brilliant, we got Starmer, we got Farage, you know, brilliant. Yeah, hail the Messiah. And then we just fall into a different kind of trap. But so it's hard because we've only got limited detail. You know, we've got the outlines, the silhouettes, and we're trying to build a picture out of a silhouette. You've got to try, but you've also got to be cautious in your conclusions. You really, it's best to cover all your bases. Say, you know, here's 3 or 4, 5 hypothetical scenarios that would cover the possible outcomes, and then it's like a person, you know, watching the Grand National. At one point, one horse is ahead, and then does it fall at Beechersbrook, and then another one gets ahead, and you know, and the race finishes at the end. So you just got to keep your eye on the runners and riders, have the range of potential trajectories, and keep all possibilities on the table. And if you can build as many plausible hypotheses as possible about potential, you know, ways the things can unfold. If you've got those hypotheses in your head, and then you see things unfold in a particular way, obviously that'll confirm that, you know, one particular hypothesis is more viable than the other. But until that point, you just got to keep juggling them around and see which horse is pulling ahead. But obviously, in the end, one horse will win, and we don't know which that is yet.
Well, we don't know which is playing out. We know who's won it. It's just we've got to watch all this fumble about. We've got to watch people fumble about. It's almost like walking into a room with a candle or a match. So you've got to get up to close to things before you can see anything. Once you start to see things, you can come back to it, and you've got a torch, and then you've got something bigger. Then you find the light switch. Once you've got the light switch, then you can take your time to look about all this stuff. But if you're not going to bother looking, I just don't know where to go with it. I mean, in the chat room, they're talking about Carl Jung, and they're talking about Sigmund Freud. Sigmund Freud was obsessed with having sex with his mum and the ego and all this kind of stuff. It's all about us fixing ourselves, or a man fixing us. It's all part of this theosophical society push that came in through Blavatsky and all them, and Benjamin Creme and all that. If you see what these people have got planned to go in, you can see what's building up, Alex. You know, it's ignorance. And a lot of people start crying when you call them ignorant because they think you're calling them stupid. They're ignorant. They don't know. But the problem is when you present information to people, especially information that goes against what you know, instead of just calling people names and denying it, it's time that you go and look at it. If you've got too much of a life to take time to go and look at that, then you'll wait till you haven't got that life. You know, they're going to pay people to stay at home. Elon Musk says there's going to be a massive problem with people not having a job because automatic machines are everything. They're going to take everything over. So we're going to have all these people doing nothing. So look back at 1995 when Idiocracy, a film was made where people were just pumped full of entertainment, where they don't have to move from their armchair to crap, to eat, to drink, to watch, to be entertained. It's all programmed, and then we can have a brain chip as well, so we won't know which reality we're in. They primed people for this, and they've got to show us, for some reason, the rules are, they've got to show us what they're doing. You know, it's the lies that are mixed in it that you've got to discern. Now, if all your information has been littered with lies, you have to go back and find a fundamental truth. The only thing that I found, have I gone?
You're broken up a bit.
Hello?
Yo, yeah, you froze, but you're back. Yo, yeah. I can hear you, but your voice ain't syncing with the image.
I'll shut it off, see if it'll make any difference for a bit. Yeah, it's funny, as soon as I mentioned Bible, the only truth I found was in that Bible, and everybody who's told me lies in this world says that that Bible is either wrong, corrupt, too old, it's not.
Oh, well, there you go. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to engage the chat since Paul has disappeared. I'm staring into a mobile phone. So I'm going to see what you're all saying on the chat, because he just got cut off. Bad interweb. Yeah, you're not wrong, mate. That's beer guy. Our birth certificates provide the answer. Well, that's a bit. Do our birth certificates provide the answer, or do they clue us in to something that's been done over time that's led us into almost like a false construct? I don't know if they provide an answer. I think they provide an explanation, but I don't think they provide an answer necessarily. Yeah, has he posted a link, Jimmy? Because I would say, yeah, jump on, but I can't post a link, and I don't know if he's posted one in the comment section. So it's the only problem is how to get you on. Yeah, so it's yeah, exactly. I'm not sure myself. He will show back up. Way Aussie's on. So yeah, well, thanks everyone for coming on. So like Paul was saying, oh, he's back. But you know, each week it's difficult to come up with truly novel content. I mean, if you look at current affairs programs, one of the things about current affairs is there's always something happening. I mean, it used to say Sundays was a slow news day. Like, you know, you used to get this really tedious TV because everything seemed to sort of shut down for the weekend. Stock markets are switched off and everything opened again on Monday morning. So there is a repetitive feel to truth and facts when we know what's wrong. And it's like from how many different perspectives and angles can you approach the same truth without repeating yourself? So then we're moving into activism. Unless you've got a current affairs type program, you know, if someone's looking at specific issues week in, week out, I suppose that's one way to keep things fresh. But yeah, I totally sympathise with where Paul's coming from here at times when, you know, you will throw your hands up in the air and say, well, we come on every week and, you know, the chat's on every week and we all know the state of the world. We're all, you know, we're not done because we've done at least some of our diligence to read between the lines. But it's still very difficult to leverage change and, you know, coming together as communities. We've had people on from community assemblies. We've had various speakers. We'll probably have some more speakers. And in some ways, you can get discouraged thinking that you're urinating in the wind. This is part of the demoralization that's kicked in. And if people are aware of Yuri Bezmenov, the whole communist idea of how they wanted to infiltrate through the universities in the West, and Peterson, for example, has been speaking for a long time about the corruption in the universities, the left-wing stuff. So that covert strategy that Bezmenov talked about as a kind of a double agent has worked very well. You see, you've got the useless eaters, which is supposedly us, and the useful idiots, who are the social workers and others who get trained until they've done with them, and then they throw them under the bus. So it's very difficult when you're dealing with a demoralization strategy to keep your spirits up, because you just feel like power is in town and it's a steamroller and it's squashing everyone. So that is particularly difficult for us, and sticking together is as much about maintaining mutual morale. I think sometimes we look for an action strategy because we're impatient. We want to bring about change. We can see it's evil and corrupt. But sometimes the purpose of coming together is more to encourage each other and to big each other up and to say, don't lose heart, keep going. And that's not to be underestimated either, I think. You back, Paul?
You tell me.
Yeah, well, it seems like you are.
Yeah, it bounced me, threw me straight out. Yeah, I lost my train of thought, so I'm just trying to pick up from where you were talking about.
Well, Jim was talking about coming on when you got booted off, but there were no link. You know, Wigan Joker, Jimmy.
Yeah, I can't. I'd have Jimmy on like that, but I can't run it with two of them. So it's just going to keep booting me. So we'll stick to what we're doing tonight. Be back at one. Be back at one next week. Have a decent internet. You know, it's hard when you're next to a nuclear power station that sounded like it was going to explode last week, and then all of a sudden your hotspotting from your phone's not great.
Yeah.
Didn't expect to see seagulls with 3 heads.
Might happen yet.
Rich, the beer guy, it's nothing to do with Virgin Media broadband. You can't get it on the site. You can pay for internet on here, but it's not very good. That's what all the owners have been complaining about. So the only way I can do it is hotspotting.
Yeah.
Oh, he wants me to go. I'll go upstairs in this single cell caravan.
Yeah, get up roof. Get on the roof,
it's Paul. Mate. To cow go outside onto the roof. It is what it is, mate. It is what it is. But yeah, I was trying to say that everything in that Bible is the only truth. So because I found out that there was so much lies, Alex, I built all my life on sand. The Bible says don't do that. You know, people say that people think, and the Catholics in particular think that Peter was the rock that Christ was going to build on. That's not correct. It was what Peter said that was the rock that Christ would build on, which was, who am I? Who do you say I am? And he had a few people say different things, and then Peter said, you are the Son of the true living God. And he said, no man told you that. I will build on that rock, because that was the revelation given to him by the Holy Spirit.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting as well, because it came after his confession. I think there is more to it than his confession. It's not. I think we've been affected by the Roman Catholic attribution as Peter as the first pope. They just sequestered him, a bit like Islam sequestered the Judeo-Christian tradition. And exactly. I think Jesus was also talking about the character traits of Peter, who wasn't perfect, but he was loyal. And he was saying as well, a disciple who follow me.
It was the revelation that he had along with all that loyalty.
Yeah.
He wanted to learn, he was trying to learn, but none of them had that revelation, not until the Holy Spirit came. And then all of a sudden, bang, he had that revelation saying, you are the Son of the true living God. Nobody else thought that. Oh, you're Elijah, you're this. You know, who do you say I am? You're the Son of the true living God. No man told you that. And that's because he's listening more than what the others are. It's like like I said, how many people do we know, Alex, who have read the Bible? But you get to that Isaiah 14:12, and it's so very specific about what it says. Yet everybody says, oh no, I believe what I want to believe. I'm never going to do that. I want to read this book over and over and over again until I understand it properly for myself, not what some bloke tells me, because I'm happy for you to come and tell me, Alex, that this is what it means. But if I read it and then I say, well, I've got a question about that, and you say I can't question, it would be as if I said the same to you. Please come and question, but come and question from the scripture. Don't come with, oh, well, Lucifer was Satan's name. Satan was his name. Then it got changed to Lucifer when he fell because it's Latin, and where are you getting that from? That's what we've got to grow up about. I can only take the baseline. I built everything on sand. Now I found the rock, Alex. So let me start building on that. Once I started to build on that, you can tell we become very estranged from everybody else. You know, my best friend who teaches RE said to me, she says, you have a strange take on the Bible, and it's because I read it. No, none of the people I know read the Bible to understand it. They can read and repeat it. What were you talking about parroting last week?
Yeah.
It's no point parroting. It's, what does that mean? Let's go to the lexicon. Let's see what it means in the Greek and in the Hebrew. Let's see what the context is. It would be like me being sat in a pub with you, Alex, and a bloke comes in and I say, hey, that's Dave's son, that. And you go, oh, is it Tommy's son? No, it's Dave's son. Yeah, but he might well be Tommy, because isn't Dave's wife married to Tommy now? So that's Tommy's lad. No, it's not Tommy's lad. It's Dave's. I've just told you that, and that's the truth. Yet you look in that book and you say, oh, it doesn't mean that. Sorry, I'm not going to stick with what some bloke says. That's not what it means. I went to the shop. Oh, that means he went to the field. It doesn't say that. Yeah, but that's what it means. He's gone to the shop on the way to the field. But it doesn't say that. So I'm not going to get bogged down in it. And as soon as people start arguing that, then I'll just walk away, because there's no point. It's what we're talking about, what is written. You know, you've got it in, I saw a great debate over in the, what's it called in London, Speaker's Corner. And this Muslim girl was talking to this fellow called Bob. Now, Bob's a Christian apologetic. And she was talking to him about Muhammad's wife. He married her at 6, according to the Quran, and he then consummated at 9, but she wouldn't have it. Even in the hadiths, you know, Al-Bukhari says this, or one of the massive, biggest scholars. Yet, no, that's not true. So why does Islam make them lie about that when their scholars say this is what it means? It would be like me saying, well, this is what the Bible says, but that's not what it means. But that's what it says. And all the scholars agree that that's what it says. It's strange to me, Alex, because you have to start making things up. And if you're starting to twist scripture more than what Chubby Checker twisted, you're off to a false start.
I think that people, if you look at the scriptures that are relatively popular, the Bible is obviously, it's the most printed book in the world ever. But Christianity doesn't get respect in the cultures, and you can say that's because of Jesus and rejection of Jesus. A lot of the time it comes from rejection of Christians and the way that they live. But the reality is, whether Jews or Muslims, for example, who also claim to be people of the book, and so they claim to have this tie with Christianity, all their adherents are, in the case of the Jews, it's the more directed to the Talmud and to the Mishnah, and you might have some sort of rabbinic interpretation, but mainly using the Talmud, or with the Imam is the equivalent in Islam. You've got the Hadith. So the people themselves are not encouraged to go to their own primary scriptures. So when William Tyndale was burnt at the stake,
they're not allowed to, Alex. They're not allowed to think about the scriptures at all.
Look at Tyndale. So when Tyndale did the equivalent of converting the Latin text into, in our case, English, so that your average person could read it, not only did it improve literacy rates, which was a good thing, but people had their own direct access to the word. And the Roman Catholic hierarchy determined that this was not a good thing, because the loss of control from translation from the Latin. And there is a downside to having an interpretation because, like you were saying before, then the crackpots can say, well, this means this. So it wasn't a simplistic, like centralized power just oppressing. There was actually some merit on the side of that argument that when it pluralizes, you'll have every kind of crackpot with their own interpretation. In terms of the Reformed traditions, you've had, traditions, and Protestantism means exactly that. Feminism is a form of secular Protestantism. It's a protest group, and the Reformation spawned a lot of these movements. And we can say they're good, we can say they're bad, but they're clearly a mix of both. But clearly, also, when you get that, it democratizes things. But when you democratize it, you've got to give a weight to each person's interpretation, that the Spirit of God could speak to them when they read the Word. Now, in terms of Judaism, they are precluded from that opportunity, possibility. It's the Talmud, it's the secondary interpretations around the Old Testament, and the specialists, the rabbis, study that, and then they'll teach the people through, Mishnah and Talmud, and again with the Imam, he'll be the expert, he'll know the Quran in Arabic by heart, but nobody else is allowed to, really, or encouraged to, and it's the Hadith. So that's the equivalent of the Talmud and the Mishnah. Christians don't have an equivalent of that, really. But you still get folk religion.
No.
But there isn't, in the culture, people are not encouraged to go directly to a word that would really make them address the things that you're talking about. So like I quoted last week from Isaiah 7, and a virgin shall bring forth a child. It's like, well, what would Jews think now? If you thought, oh yeah, that Jesus guy was supposed to be born of a virgin, we rejected him. He claimed he was our Messiah, but we said he was a false Messiah. But the claim is he was born of a virgin. Oh yeah, Isaiah said that. But if you're not reading it, or Isaiah 53, the suffering servant, or Isaiah 9 verse 6, everlasting God, Prince of Peace, was it everlasting Father, mighty God, wonderful Counselor, all the descriptions, Emmanuel, God with us. So if you had Jews reading that on a regular basis, they would understand that, well, actually God with us is the everlasting Father. Oh, the everlasting Father is God with us, dwelling with us in human form. Oh, that's what the Christian message is, where Jesus was Messiah, but we rejected him because God can't become a man, because that's idolatry, making a man equal with God. But God said it in his own scripture that was going to happen. But if we're not reading it, so that's what's happening. And people don't go to the primary source. They prefer folk religion, and they prefer their own made-up versions because they can stay in a comfort zone then. Well, I feel comfortable with this. Well, this is my morality. These are my ethics. I feel comfortable with my own ethics. Of course I do. That's why you've got
them. Exactly. I mean, that's my point, Alex. You've got these people who claim to be certain things, right? So we know we've got a good friend who's a Muslim. He's just started reading his book. Now, I've had some really good discussions with him, and I've seen him. It didn't get heated, but I could hear him defending the position of the questions that I was asking. There's an excuse, there's a reason. Or that was for that time. Well, if Muhammad is only the example for that time, that's one thing. But now we're being told that from the Muslims that Muhammad is the example for all mankind. Okay, so he was a 54-year-old man that married a 6-year-old and had sex with her at 9. Oh no, that's not right. He's the best example apart from that. Hang on. All of a sudden, we've started to get this mixed up. Now, that's the first region. Now we go to the Jews who rejected Jesus, who put the Talmud above it, and we can read in the Talmud that having sex with a 5-year-old child is no worse than poking them in the eye. They'll get over it. Now, this is their hadiths, So we're looking at men who say that this is okay, and then people just blindly follow, because if they read the Talmud for themselves, they would have to joust with that within themselves. So when I read the Bible and it tells you to do nothing of the thing, apart from the one time where people bring up, God said, Go and kill all those people. Let nobody stay alive. Animals, children, women, everything. But that, taken out of context, that you can make that sound bad. But when you realise that these are people who shouldn't have been here, these are the ones who rebelled and consummated with fallen angels and all this kind of stuff. And then not only that was one thing, but then to worship these people and have the firstborn children and burn them to a God that's made up.
Yeah.
That's why these people were destroyed. Sodom and Gomorrah, that's what they were doing. This is the type of things that we're doing. They're completely gone, Alex. There was no good left in these places. If you remember when Abraham said, what if there's 50, 40, 30, 10 people in Sodom? God said, I won't destroy it. Right, I'm off to Sodom because there's not even 10. There's not even one because Lot's left. So Lot left and then it all got destroyed. So it's about the culture. You know, when we talk about Lot's wife looking back, she didn't just turn around and have a look to see what was happening. She looked back, yearning what they'd left. So Lot knew that it was naughty, but the thing you've still got to contend with is Lot still offered his daughters to the mob to stop them going with the angels that had visited. So you still see that they were wrestling with all this stuff. I mentioned in the week that one of the 5 cities of the plains was Zoar. Zoar didn't get destroyed yet. It was guilty along with the others. Yet Zoar didn't get destroyed because Lot ran to that. So there was one righteous man there. So God didn't destroy it. But Lot saw how bad Zoar was and he didn't stay there. Instead, he went to live in a cave. So we've got to take the Bible as a whole and not rip scripture out of it because it fits what we say. It's a whole. It's not bits of scripture. It's everything together because the Old Testament and the New Testament are all one, and it all speaks and points to each other. Because it was funny at Bible study last week, Alex. The study that she did was that she said, right, go to Revelation. And Dave says, where's that, jokingly? Meaning, obviously, it's at the end. But the end was written at the beginning. So, you know, this is what we've got to start being honest about. I nearly have 3 of you then, mate. What's going on?
I don't know what happened there. I must have a twin. Yeah, I don't know what happened.
Well, I'm going to review. I'm going to kick the other Alex, mate. I'm going to kick the other Alex.
Why is he still there?
It's yeah, he was paused. He was just frozen time, so I've just kicked him and added you. I don't know what the other Alex is going to do though, mate.
Oh, he'll be right. I'll have a word with him. I'll tell him to back off and not join the New World Ordering process.
Yeah, that's it. We've joked about this New World Order for such a long time, but there's some really good documentaries and absolutely wonderful information that joins all these dots from the Theosophical Society through the Rosicrucians, through the Vatican, through Freemasonry, through Templars, through Jesuits. All of this is linked. All of it joins up. There's no breathing space. And the Bible says all that will form a world government, a world order, and a world religion. What are they going to base this world religion on? We've got the false Christianity. What if the Theosophical Society says that it's basically like somebody from the Pleiades will come, and because we'll be warring with each other, they'll come to help us, and they're the gods because we're going to be like them. Because don't forget, in Theosophy, we're our own gods, Alex, and we go through that shift. We go to 4D to 5D. You know, we'll all be rushing to Tibet to try and go and meditate with these monks and be taught about chakras and all that. So it's the Bible says, you know, the oldest lie. Didn't he say you'd be like us? Didn't he say you'd be like gods? Surely you wouldn't die. You'd be like gods. So now people still think from another different angle, and you know, this could fool the very elect if it was possible. This is why we've got to keep oil in the lamps, Alex. This is why we need to keep talking. I know you mentioned earlier when I got cut off and I come back, you mentioned earlier about having new content every week. We're in a battle here, you know. What can you what if you was in a battle every week? What would you report? Casualties.
Yeah, the battle.
Casualties, wins, fights. What's going on? Is that not what we're doing? It's what we're trying to do anyway, because what's playing out in this world is from the world we can't see, and we participate in the world we can't see, but we don't realize that. So we try and make the difference here in this world, and that's where we get it wrong. And we also forget that we're already coming from a victory. We've been beaten into submission all our life, and we're kicking against what we know. And people don't like that. People don't like to kick against what we know. And you mentioned something to me this week that resonated with me, where I could possibly be holding on to that little bit that still seems secure. Do you know what I mean? I've always known it, and it's still here, so I hold on to it. But, you know, didn't it? We're not fighting a losing battle, mate. We've already won. We've already won this battle. The fight is trying to get people to wake up to what the truth is. It doesn't matter what you believe. It's what you've been taught. If you are happy with what you've been taught and you don't need to know anything else, then that's it. We'll just crack on with what you're doing. Exactly. I mean, you'll sit back in your castle eating Black Forest Gatto and defending and farting in the general direction of your enemies. It's what you've got to do, brother. It's just, you know, it's where we get to. I've spent all this time fighting the nuts and bolts. You did as well. You went to what? You put on notice 49 constabularies. And what was the effect of that? What was the point to that? What do you think would happen? Did we think that people would go, oh, we've got to do something different? No, they doubled down. They doubled because only you turned up, Alex, to put them on notice, not 300 people here, and then 300 people to every other constabulary because nobody was interested. That was the time. When I had that gyro check in the courtroom, remedy, shouldn't be paying bills, that unlocked everything. It just opened the can of worms. We could have done something, but nobody was asked. Nobody was asked because they all had a life. Well, you're going to pay now. You're going to pay now with everything that you think you own, and you don't own it. They're going to take it all legally. The people in LA, if they can't pay for the burnt out carcass of a property, then they can't live on that land. So the bank will foreclose. Now the bank is the owner, because you don't realize you've given them power of attorney, of an open lot in prime time, in prime real estate. We were talking last week about destruction capitalism. That's what we're seeing. That's what we're seeing in Hawaii. That's what we're seeing in LA. Sorry, mate. Go ahead.
Disaster capitalism.
Disaster capitalism. Yes, but these disasters are being propagated. By accident. But having said that, it could as well be judgment. But the thing they've got is, even if it's judgment, those houses have still been burnt, and the insurance companies can still make that claim, and it's all legal because they are acting on a people think they own that. They're the debtors, the bank, the creditors. It's so simple but so strange. But when you point that, where do we take it? We can't go to the family. Well, we could if we went en masse and booked these courts properly.
Oh yeah. Well, this is what we're banging on about, isn't it? And obviously we had the testimonial the other week. Perhaps we need an update at some point as to how that's going with the beer guy. You know, how far that process is along, because you know he's made a valiant effort there. He's done his diligence. He's got his knowledge base in place, and he's taken action. So we need pioneers.
That's it. I mean, you've got Rich who's decided that, you know, he's got to do something. He's
Yeah. Hello. I don't know what's going on here. Has Webby disappeared? Trying to work out what's going on. I'm going to the chat now. Oh, I like that. DW diligence, due diligence, as in, you know, directed energy weapons, which is all the rage at the moment. So I don't know what people think about that situation in California. I know somebody who's been on the beach. He's been living on the beach, and I think he's some sort of Taoist Buddhist. But and I think they do some house sitting for people. Or they were doing, you know, for an income. And I think his partner was a landscape gardener, and he was in Malibu, and he was giving me updates about how devastating it was. So I don't know what people think about that and the directed energy weapons. Does anyone not think it is? I mean, does anybody think? Because obviously Paul was mentioning a sense of judgment. So obviously from a Christian point of view that we'd normally be talking about, this would be God's judgment. But it's not that clear, because in Revelation, it says, Revelation 13, Revelation 17, it talks about the beast. Revelation 17 repeats Revelation 13. And it says that the beast has the harlot riding on its back, and that the harlot the harlot is destroyed by the beast that rides on its back. And in Revelation 18, it says the saints of God are rejoicing that the beast destroys the harlot. And it's like, that's a bit interesting. So judgment comes through an evil entity destroying another evil entity. And that is seen as judgment, but not perpetrated directly by God. So could it be that even if it was directed energy weapons used by nefarious people, the infrastructure it was destroying was a judgment? Because I don't think there were too many poor people there. I think it was mainly celebrities and well-to-do people that suffered in that one. Are you back, Paul?
I think so, but yes, I agree. That's what I think, because the Assyrian, who was the anointed cherub, you know, who walked in the garden, so he was used. Nebuchadnezzar was used. All these peoples have been used in judgment, but Nebuchadnezzar stood on top of his palace and said it was all him. And then God said, no, it weren't. And I think,
it helps us to solve the problem.
The problem that you've got.
It helps us to solve the problem of who started the fires, because, you know, if it was some divine thing where God whipped up the elements and it was a direct divine judgment, that's different than if, you know, some deranged person was still serving the purposes of God, but also in a way following their own evil inclinations. This is where it gets a bit more, you know, morally troublesome for a lot of people who are modern. You go, well, God using an instrument of evil? Well, that's a bit questionable. But it isn't really.
It's always happened though, hasn't it? I'll tell you who didn't start the fire, Alex. I'll tell you who didn't start the fire.
Go on.
Billy Joel.
Yeah. That's a good point, actually. Did you get that off? Did you get that off a lolly stick? No. I was thinking like, or it weren't the Prodigy or anything like that.
I remember specifically Billy Joel said we didn't start the fire, so it weren't him.
Yeah.
But,
exactly.
Again, I think everybody is swayed by emotions, and those emotions. I mean, when you look at the judgment of God, where He said to the fallen ones, "You will watch your sons devour each other." Well, anything that comes from that complex, from that energy, that's the house of Satan is divided, and if the house is divided, it can't stand. It's very clear, and all these people want the same thing, but they can't agree on it. And I think the Theosophy and then the Roman Catholicism, the beast and the ewer, I think they can't work together. It's just like living with your wife. You can't live with her. Sometimes you can live with her. These ones you can't. You want to be on the roof. You want to be away from this nagging wife.
Oh, that could get a bit questionable. Hopefully none of the ladies are listening and taking offence.
Oh, are you kidding? I'm sure they'd object profusely.
That's why you beat corner at roof, corner at attic. Yeah.
Well, mate, we've done just over an hour. I don't know if we can carry on too much like this because it's all glitching at my end. So maybe we should call it an evening and regroup for next week when I'm at 1, and I should have much a better connection and none of this rubbish.
Oh, you've just been asked a question though by Dennis in the chat, Paul.
Oh right, no, Denny, I've done my shagging about, mate. There's no women. It's going to have to be a special one, and there's not that many about. So I'm happy with what I have at the minute, which is no hassle, celibacy, and it's a chosen one. I don't have to be, but I can't.
Yeah. Well, they are challenging questions, aren't they? Things like,
I think what we were talking about earlier, bringing somebody else into the equation is just going to make it harder.
you've really got to be on the same page, Paul. Because the thing is, you always had to be really to have a fruitful union. But the thing is, in these times now, your energies are so scattered, resources are so scattered, and the fact of the matter is, you don't want any of your resources draining. You don't want anything that's parasitic on your energy. And that doesn't even mean that the other person's a bad person. It just means if the mojo, if the chemistry is not good, you don't want to be, hemorrhaging out your resources, your time, your money, your mental well-being. So unless it's the person who you've just got that, not just connection, but you've got that ease, you're on the same page, you build each other up rather than tearing each other down, then relationships are largely going to get in the way. They become another thing that you have to worry about, another stressor. Thankfully for me, I don't hold down a job now because I retired, but that's just to answer one of Dennis's questions. He's telling us to cheer up. Yeah, well, I don't think
you got Jimmy saying, you got Jimmy saying, I need a woman to take my minds off bills of exchange. How would that be? Because I'd end up having to have to pay me bills. She'd want to pay the bills. She'd want a TV license because she'd want to watch that crap. So that would make it only worse.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, these are still practical questions, the practical questions of life. And this is where I mean, you know, we don't really get enough women on commenting and to balance it out, because obviously, from a man's perspective, women, you know, men have a particular view of women, and women have a particular view of men, and both parties are equally convinced that they're right and the other one's delusional. And it's hard to make any progress. That divide and conquer has affected a lot of people, and it's rife in the culture. But the differences between males and females in the West now is like almost like different species, and that's not by coincidence. That's an operation to attack the family and to create these competing needs that fight against each other narcissistically, you know, for dominance. And harmony is hard to maintain with all these stresses and pressures going on in life. And you know, men and women have different pressures and bring different things to the table. And if you don't have the ability, like for example, if you don't have a good mental health yourself, good well-being, good wholeness, another person is likely to potentially have a deleterious effect on your own mental health, because you're having to manage them as well if they're bringing problems to your door. So harmony is vital. And if you're in a partnership with somebody, you just can't afford to be the wrong person who's tearing you down. You know, that energy is not good. You know, you've got to purge that energy so that you can be clear and get your priorities and your focus right.
I don't know what Denny means by grow up, it's horrid. I don't know what that means. To answer T for two, I agree women aren't all the same, but I know men personally who have had to go completely legit because they got married to a girl who wanted to go on holidays, who, you know, they ended up having jabs, but he didn't, so he couldn't go away, but she'd go away. But she wanted a license, she wanted, everything does change. To find a woman who'd want to fight against all that and to, well, you're looking, it's quite scarce. It's something that I don't feel driven to look down that path. You know, I'm on this third of my life. I don't know where to go with it, because the middle third has been, well, as you know, Alex, it's been quite colourful. You know, I've made a lot of whoppers of decisions and changed a lot of things. But when it came down to women, it was like the long-term relationship I had was the one that taught me all this, because of the house being in the middle of it all. Having armed police called on me, that changes a man. That changes you. Why are armed police called on me? How does that happen? Why is that not on the telly? Why is that not in the papers that armed police attended Wigan County Court? Why was it not reported that for 5 hearings I had over 30 coppers present? Why is that not reported? That's strange. So that started me off on this, which taught me the bills of exchange. You know, we have all these people who have these witty quips about, oh, you maybe don't want to talk about that anymore. No, how boring it is. Yeah, how boring it is. It's boring to have no money. It's boring to keep paying for things that you shouldn't. You know, it's one of those things. I'll take that from some people. I'll take the police were called for crime against women. I'll take it from some, but not from you, brother. But that's what I mean, Alex. You can't just ignore what has been, what you realised, you know. You're not even being told this. You're living it. You're seeing it happen, and then you're asking questions, and you're not being told the answers. This is, I don't know what to say, because nobody would accept it in any other walk of life. If you order something from Amazon and pay for it and it gets delivered and the Amazon driver insists you pay him, you're not going to do it. Well, there's no difference to what has happened for your gas, water and electric. Your taxes have gone. You don't care about them because you don't check them. They're gone. Well, What have they paid for? Gas, water, and electric. Oh, brilliant. That's why you need to set it off so they can balance the books for the money you've spent. I'm not asked about that. I get a good quality service from my utility supplier, so I pay more. This is the stupidity that you get. So it's all well and good to say, oh, just cheer up, just get on with stuff. Well, you know what? When you've worked hard and you've seen your parents work like dogs and you've had everything stolen off you in a courtroom where you're right, it's not as easy to just walk away and skip away and think, oh, life's so great. You know, it's time to bloody grow up.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, just to come back to what T for Two said, I know it's difficult to trust and get to know each other, talking about relationships still. But it's a culture war. I think this is the problem. And in culture war, if you get people who've got pain and damage and they project it onto the partner, say they've got like an ideal template about what a partner's supposed to be, then they'll always be comparing the person in front of them with this ideal template. And that ideal template is designed to make them feel better. If only my partner was like this, my life would be okay. No, it wouldn't. You need to make sure your life's okay. So instead of people use relationships to inoculate themselves from the pain that they feel in their own life that they don't want to deal with, and they fantasize and romanticize the partner who will be the perfect foil so that their pain will be soothed. It doesn't work like that. These are parental dramas.
No.
If you don't deal with it, then you'll just keep acting them out over and over again. So it isn't about maligning men or women. It's about saying, you know, in the culture war, these phenomena of humans are getting heightened and pressed on even more because of the role differentiation between men and women and the way that the courts are intervening in situations when there's divorce and societies make it. It's the same with benefits culture. You know, at the end of the day, it's like what they did with furlough, you know, call it furlough. You give people 80% of the money for staying at home and not working. You're rewarding them. And it's the same now, universal credit. They want to bring it in. Everyone's under universal credit. They want to make everyone dependent on the state. That's a power grab. It's the same in America with affirmative action where, you know, they give privileged places in universities to people just because of the skin color, not on merit. When you start doing that, you end up with serious problems because you disable those people by telling them effectively you're discriminating against them and saying, actually, you aren't good enough and you need help. So we're going to give you help. And if a person's a sucker, they'll go, brilliant, I get to be helpless and get given lots of handouts, never do anything with my life, but then I'm dependent. Like a child always remains dependent on the parent. And they don't see that though, because like a kid, oh, you're feeding me, I don't care. And this is what's happened. So people don't want to take responsibility. They want everything to be given to them. And, you know, that's what's happening in Western cultures a lot of the time, where governments have attacked their people by making them lazy. And, you know, that isn't to support the view of, say, like a more extreme capitalist who exploits people. We're not saying that. But a meritocracy is important where people work hard but don't pay the bills. They work hard and then they reap the benefits of working hard and are rightly rewarded. And that's what we should have.
That's the incentive. If you had a fantastic infrastructure of gas, water and electric, where the water is now being touted that possibly is causing dementia in 31% of the population in this country. So if you're paying for that, you want a better supply, you want something better. But 20 years ago, we managed to get an email from United Utilities where they emailed us back to say that it isn't the United Utilities policy to put fluoride into the water supply. However, should the Strategic Health Authority state they must, they have a legal obligation to do so. So industrial waste that is as toxic as uranium or whatever, you know, proper toxic waste, a percentage of that is to be put in supply if government agencies state that must happen, and you're paying for that. And with the crap that's gone on over the last 4 years, the taxpayer has funded genocide via democide, and there's no two ways about it. The government has put these policies in place to kill people, and you've paid for it.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. Well, you know, let's you know, try and have a bit of an uplift at the end. We've carried on a bit longer than we thought in the last few minutes, extended it a bit. But obviously tomorrow's a big day. Everyone's saying that. Jimmy just said it in the chat. We'll see what happens. It's definitely going to be good to displace the leftist lunacy and to see some shake-up on the world stage. I would just say to people, you know, look at the feel-good factor. You know, as soon as you get a feel-good factor, just be a little bit careful, and look at the situation in Israel with Palestinians and everything, the ceasefire, very carefully, because it's going to become a melting pot. It's going to become a melting pot. So just keep your wits about you. And yeah, if Trump puts some pressure on Starmer and we can get Starmer out, come on, let's get him out. And anything's better than him, you know. So at the end of the day, the spiritual matters are separate than the political matters. We do need some political redress. We do need to stop the oppression at that level. That will be a good thing on one level, but on another level, it could become the beginning of a deception, because people will have this feel-good factor. They'll breathe out. They'll be happy that those issues have been resolved, which is a good thing in itself. But then that will lead people potentially to switch off and think we're entering the promised land or some golden age of 1,000 years, you know, which is a common motif, but it won't be that.
Well, that's the coming age of Aquarius if you're into theosophy. Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, mate, thanks for coming on. Again, guys, I apologise for us coming on late, and I apologise for the tech issues. What can you do when you're in a caravan next to a nuclear power station? You've just got to make the best. Things could be a lot worse.
Yeah.
Never mind. Thanks, Alex.
No worries.
I'm not going to bother with a monologue because I'll probably be talking to myself for half an hour anyway. So thanks for everybody in the chat room. Thanks for putting up with us. Get talking to people. Make some changes. No matter how small it is, make some changes. Even if it's with yourself, because when you change yourself, you change everything around you, even when you don't know it.
That's the key.
Good night, God bless, guys. God bless.
Catch you later.
Your gas is free, your gas is free, in a debt-based economy. Gas free, your gas is free, in a debt-based economy. Your gas is free, your gas is free, in a debt-based economy. Your gas is free, your gas is free, in a debt-based economy. Here's the Webster Report with Paul the Gasman Webster.